Hey there, this is my second video on the charitable gifting of real estate. If you missed the first video, I suggest you go back and watch it. It was more of an overview. This is going to be specifically geared towards property owners. So the first question I want to answer is, well, who would even want to donate a piece of property and why would they? Well, the reason as to why someone would want to donate is very simple. Many people, most people perhaps, are actually altruistic and philanthropic. Most people have a favorite charity, a house of worship, a food pantry, whatever the case may be that they support and that they would be happy to donate to whenever they can. The problem is all of the nonprofits out there, when they send out their requests, it's always for the same thing, cash. And there isn't all that much cash going around in times like this because those who have it tend to want to keep it and those who don't. So especially in these times of COVID and all this craziness going on, it's kind of hard to really get those cash donations. So it makes the donation of a non-cash asset, for example, real estate, so much more feasible because it allows for a nonprofit to receive a nice big chunk of money. The donor receives tax benefits and doesn't have to touch his or her cash. So as to who this is for, well, let me start off by telling you who this is not for. If you are a homeowner and you own one home, which were you to sell it, you would need the proceeds to buy your next home, this is probably not for you. If you are someone who owns multiple homes, or if you're an investor who is caught up in the 1031 exchange wheel and you know that when you liquidate this property, you're going to have a lot of capital gains tax that have been deferred so far come due. If you are someone who has a second home that no one uses anymore and you really don't need, and you could use actually the tax write-off that you would get from donating it. If you're an older person who's looking to simplify your estate or divest some of your assets, any of those particular situations, this could very well be for you. So, basically the way this works is very simple. You, as a potential donor, would get in touch with me, and I would ask you a few questions to find out information about your property, and I would then bring the property to the specialized nonprofit that I'm partnered with. They're the secret sauce that makes all of this happen. And if they decided that they could accept your property, then you would be able to donate the property to this specialized nonprofit. So you become out of the equation. The deed, everything is transferred over to this specialized nonprofit. The specialized nonprofit then hires a realtor. If it's in New York City, that would be me. If not, we find a realtor in another state. The realtor sells the property the same way they normally would. And at the closing table, the proceeds from the sale go to whatever nonprofit or nonprofits you'd like to support. And as I said, this can be applied to a lot of different types of people. Great story of someone who you wouldn't think would be able to donate. So it was in New Mexico a couple of months back during COVID. A development director of a nonprofit hospital was making routine calls to her donors, asking them to keep up their support, etc. So she calls this older woman who was donating $25 a year for 30 years. So this is someone obviously who's committed to this hospital, but probably doesn't have that much cash if it was $25 a year for 30 years. And in the course of the conversation, the donor said to the development director, she said, I have a cabin in Pennsylvania. It was like one of those log cabins in the outskirts of Pennsylvania. She said that I bought a long, long time ago for almost nothing. She said it's worth about $70,000 right now. I have no use for it. Would you accept that? So the development director, who works with our specialized nonprofit, said to the woman, "Thank you so much for your offer. Let me put you in touch with my real estate team." And long story short, they did accept the property. And when the transaction was over, property did sell for $70,000. They had to do some repairs, so there was some cost there. Long story short, the hospital was able to receive a check from this older woman who was giving $25 a year for 30 years. Because of her donation, they got a check for $45,000. Now, if that had been a property in New York City, we would be talking $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. But still, I mean, do you think that development director was happy with $45,000 from a woman who was giving $25 a year? I think she was thrilled. So that's a perfect example of someone who you wouldn't think would be in a position to donate. You know, there are people out there who just have that extra property that they don't need, or they inherited a house or a shopping center from mom or dad and they don't know what to do with it. Perfect people who could potentially be donors of properties. So the way this works, as I said, the donor would contact me and I get the information about the property and I then pass it along to the specialized nonprofit, and if they feel that it's a property that they're willing to accept, they do accept it. The donor is now out of the equation. Everything is signed over, the title is signed over to the specialized nonprofit. They hire a real estate agent to sell it. If it's in New York City, they'll be hiring me because I'm the only person in New York City who knows how to do this. And at the closing table, the nonprofit that the donor chooses, and it can be more than one, gets the check. Now, what the donor gets is, aside from the satisfaction of giving a whole lot of money to a cause that they believe in, the donor gets all capital gains tax washed away because they're donating the property, and they also get the appraised value of the property as the basis for their tax write-off. Now, I'm not a CPA, so I'm not going to really touch that one. One of the things that we do in deciding whether or not to accept the property is the specialized nonprofit always refers the donor to their accountant because everybody's tax situation is different. And we are realtors. We're not tax people, so we don't pretend to be something that we're not. As a matter of fact, the motto of this organization is do what you do best and refer the rest. So I always have people consult their own tax people, their own attorneys, just to make sure that we're working in their best interest. Because yes, we do want to support the charities, but we don't want to do it at the expense of the homeowners. That's exactly not the point. So the property owners are able to benefit with tax write-offs. The nonprofits are able to benefit with large checks without having to be involved in the transaction. There's no risk to them. They don't even have to know the address. And incidentally, property owners, just so you know, it is also possible to do a partial donation. So for example, if there's a property that's worth $800,000, and let's say, for instance, there's no mortgage on it. There can be, but let's say there isn't. And the owner says, well, yeah, I do want to make a donation, but I need $200,000 for me. Well, our specialized nonprofit is able to, when they accept the donation, cut a check to the owner for $200,000, and then we just have a $600,000 donation. All of that can work. So if you're a property owner that this might benefit, if you know someone who's a property owner that this might benefit, or if you're not sure if you know someone or not, Please feel free to share this video. You can direct people to my YouTube channel, share it on social media, however you see fit. Our goal is $1 billion in real estate donations by the end of next year. And every donation counts, and we are just one donation away from making a huge difference in a nonprofit that you really care about. Doesn't matter if I care about it or not. You have to care about it. And if you do, let's talk. 718-207-3792. Michael DeShavi, eXp Realty, Brooklyn, New York. And by the way, the property can be anywhere USA. Take care.